What's up, everyone, and welcome to D Spot. This is the spot for all things empowerment through yoga, meditation, and psychoeducation. My name is Dalia, and I am going to be your coach. Welcome if you're new here. Welcome back if you're returning. I'm so grateful that you are here. Now, if you've been following me for a while, you know that my last few videos have all been around topics that you've been wanting to learn more about, especially as feelings and triggers and emotions are arising because of the ongoing genocide taking place in Palestine. And so we've already talked about sacred anger, post-traumatic growth, we've talked about helplessness. We've talked about secondary trauma, survivor's guilt. So make sure you check those out. But in today's video, we are going to be talking about resilience because if the Palestinian people or Arabs in general have taught us anything, it is the power of resilience. Now, at the time of filming this, Israel has killed over 30,000 people, the majority of which are children. Children. Let that sink in for a second. They have bombed hospitals, they've bombed churches, they've bombed mosques, they've bombed refugee camps, they've bombed humanitarian workers, and they've killed so many journalists. Almost 100 journalists, as a matter of fact. Yet you will still see reporters like Wael al-Dahduh burying his son one day and then showing up to work the next day to report on the atrocities happening so that people can see the truth. You will also see traumatized adults trying to comfort traumatized children. You will see people with blood running down their faces, taking to the streets to help pull each other from out of the rubble. Your heart can't help but break at the sight of it, yet at the same time, it stirs something inside of you, their courage, their grace, their faith, their resilience. Now, resilience is defined as the process of adapting well and even thriving in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or any kind of significant threats to your life or your environment. Now, when we talk about resilience, it's more than just bouncing back. Resilience implies personal growth. It implies a sense of we're not just bouncing back, we are thriving. Now, the bad news is that suffering is a part of life. Just ask any Buddhist you know. The good news is that resilience can be developed and it can be increased. Now, you'll always hear me say that instead of praying that the bad shit doesn't happen, your time would be better utilized if you just invested in learning the tools and the skills to cope. So when the bad shit does inevitably happen, you trust yourself to not only survive, but to thrive. So, how can we start boosting resilience starting from right now? In this video, we're going to talk about 4 key areas that scientists have identified to help you boost resilience. And those are the 4 P's of resilience. You got purpose, people, practices, and possibility. I'm going to go through each one of these in a little more detail, starting with purpose. Now, the first step to increasing resilience is to, first of all, get really clear on what your purpose is. And to get clear on what your purpose is, you have to take inventory of what your values are. Your values are what you want your life to be about, what you're here for. Your purpose answers the why behind why you do what you do and the reason that you have for moving forward. And so pursuing purpose and meaning in life have been scientifically proven to be to have many benefits, from improved physical and mental health to improved performance to improved well-being and, of course, resilience. I'm going to give you me as an example when it comes to my purpose, because when the shit started happening in Palestine, I felt just as helpless and angry and enraged as any of you. But then I remembered my purpose. My purpose, I believe, is to educate and empower people by making mental health and wellness more accessible. And so I started making these videos. I started making more of these videos. I started listening to what people wanted to learn more about. And that's why you will find a whole series dedicated to just what's happening in Palestine, from sacred anger to post-traumatic growth to helplessness to secondary trauma to everything. And that gave me a sense of purpose. And even in my most helpless state, I was able to wake up in the morning and remember this is the one little thing that I can do to contribute. This is my little way of being of service. And this is in alignment with my purpose. It's what gets me out of bed in the morning. And so, if you haven't been super clear on what your purpose is, or if you would like to turn this into an exercise, then I really recommend you create a personal mission statement or a personal purpose statement, because this is going to guide your choices and actions for the near future. And how do we do this? I'm glad you asked. I will share with you some steps on how you can draft your own personal purpose statement or mission statement. The first thing you want to do is spend some time reflecting on what your values are, what your beliefs are, what your principles are. Consider what truly matters to you underneath everything that you've been conditioned to believe should matter to you. You can ask yourself questions like, what brings me joy? What brings me fulfillment? What are things that I care about at my core, my beliefs, my principles? And once you have a clear sense of what your values are, then you want to take some time to identify what your strengths are, what unique qualities that you have, what inner resources you've already exhibited throughout your life. So you can ask yourself, what am I naturally good at? Because recognizing your strengths can help you align your purpose with your abilities. For instance, I like to think that I'm a pretty good communicator. And so communication has been my profession for a long time. And I think it's also what makes me a wonderful therapist. Not to toot my own horn, but you can consider also seeking feedback from friends and families and colleagues to get additional insight into what your strengths are. This is the core of my empowerment coaching program because it helps you get clear on what your values are, what your goals are, and how you can cultivate your strengths. My whole approach to coaching is what's right with you, as opposed to just focusing on what's wrong with you. And don't let anyone make you think that that's too egotistical. You are allowed to know what your strengths are, and you're allowed to internalize the fact that you are stronger than you think, much more stronger than you think. You got through 100% of your worst days, didn't you? Yes, you did. Next, you want to spend some time meditating on or envisioning the legacy that you want to leave behind. How do you want to be remembered by others? What impact do you want to make on your community, on your profession, on the world? And finally, you start by crafting a draft of your purpose statement. Keep it clear, concise, short, and impactful. And use empowering language that resonates with you and reflects your most authentic self. So you can begin with the phrase of I am, or my purpose is, or my mission is, and make sure to integrate your purpose into your daily life. You want to start making decisions and setting goals that align with your purpose statement. Have it on your fridge, have it on your bathroom mirror, have it somewhere where you can constantly look at it as a reminder to what your purpose is. And then you continuously strive to live a life that is true to your purpose. And just a reminder that it can also be okay to change that purpose with time. You're allowed to revisit the statement as many times as needed. Our second P is people. Now, let me tell you, from my own experience, nothing has helped me through this time more than having community. Now, us Arabs, we are collectivist people, and we've always known the power of community. But I was at a pro-Palestine protest this weekend, and thousands of people turned up. And the energy of community was so prevalent. The knowing smiles, the eye contact, the pumping each other up, the tooting our horns for each other. And that is the power of the people. power to the people. And also having close friends that I can actually talk to about how I'm feeling, who can actually understand and relate to it in itself is like therapy. And so cultivating these deep, meaningful relationships is so important. And that requires a nurturing. Relationships require work. And that's not just your romantic relationship, your friendships do too. So, what can you do today as a small, doable step to start being with more people? Scheduling time with people who uplift you, reaching out to some friends who you maybe want to see more of, scheduling that time in your calendar, blocking off that time to connect with people. It's simple, but it's a powerful way to strengthen your support system. And if you don't have a lot of people you can turn to, just join a movement or an activist group. I mean, this rally or the protest I was at, that's a great way to meet some like-minded people. So, people, community. The third P is practices. In other words, building resilience through habits. Habits are important. And there are many resilience boosting habits or strategies like daily exercise for our mental well being, or including daily gratitude journaling, mindfulness, breathing breaks, meditation, practicing self compassion, being in nature, connecting with nature. These are all healthy ways to incorporate habits that enhance your well being. For example, my morning routine is I don't even get out of bed before I meditate in the morning. So I do my 15-minute meditation. I get up. The first thing I do is I get outside and I get natural sunlight in my eyes before I come back and write in my journal while I have my coffee. And I cannot tell you how grounding it is to have that routine. And if you're someone who has a very busy life and you struggle to incorporate new habits or new routines, then use the stack it method, right? Stack this new habit onto an already existing habit. For example, you can write your daily gratitude list while you're drinking coffee in the morning. Instead of scrolling on Instagram, you can take 3 seconds to do three deep breaths. Okay. So when you do one, you're automatically doing the other. So when you're watching TV, maybe you can just practice being mindful of your breath and something like that. So find something that you can do every day and attach a new resilience practice to it. Now, I want to add a little something that I found super interesting that I actually heard on the Huberman podcast recently. And that is that neuroscience has recently identified that the part of the brain that's responsible for willpower is the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, or AMCC. And scientists have found that every time that you do something you don't want to do, that part of your brain gets bigger. Now, it's usually really small in obese people, and it gets bigger and bigger whenever they diet or whenever they exercise. So, anytime you do something you don't really feel like doing, your AMCC grows. And it's especially large or grows larger in people who see themselves as challenged or people who are overcoming some challenge. So remember that every time you're trying to talk yourself out of that workout, while of course striking a balance between motivating yourself and listening to your body. There are days when we need that get up, bitch, get out of your bed and get your body moving. And there are days that are like, listen to your body. That's okay. You can rest. It's all about the balance. So the fourth P is possibility. And when we talk about possibility, we're really talking about shifting your mindset so that you are more optimistic in your outlook and in your approach on life. Now, it is absolutely natural that after witnessing and experiencing so much trauma, that we tend to see things more negatively and we tend to see the world with more cynicism. Now, mind you, I'm not saying to force yourself to be positive. I'm not at all about that toxic positivity. I am inviting you to invite more hope and more optimism in your life. Whenever I'm feeling hopeless, I look at all the people fighting the good fight, and that gives me hope. And when I think about how we're all working together to birth a new world order, that fills me with possibility. So, possibility boosting strategies include cognitive appraisal, which means being cautious of your thoughts, noticing what you're thinking, and being able to pause. Introduce that mindful pause and ask yourself, is there another way I can see the situation? Is there a more realistic way that I can see the situation? I'm doing a whole video just on cognitive restructuring and wiring, so keep your eye out for that. But other things that you can do to boost your sense of possibility in the world is through compassion meditation, transcendental meditation, loving kindness meditation, which includes meditating for yourself and for the world, for the youth, for the people everywhere. You can spend more time in nature and seek beauty and seek awe. You can list all the positive, amazing things that are going on in your life or are going on in the world. You will always see happy news. It's just that, of course, the media want to like push the negative news more because that's just clickbait. But there's a lot of good out there too. So be mindful of that. Be open to that. And so those are just some ways that you can boost your resilience. And I hope that you found that very useful. I will be releasing a resilience boosting meditation later this week. So watch this space and keep your eye out for that meditation. And just remember that the key to building resilience is to start small. It's a gradual process. It takes time. You're not going to just wake up and be resilient overnight. But if you can introduce small, manageable steps and habits that you can incorporate more in your life and with enough consistency, you will be able to rewire your brain to become more resilient. But just remember, consistency and self compassion are very crucial in the journey towards greater resilience. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, do the things. All right. Thank you so much. And I'll catch you next time.